Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we started the last section of the second chapter, 54 to 72, Sthitir Muni. So what are the questions which Arjuna asked? Okay, first is what are symptoms? How he speaks, what's his language? Uh, Okay, what is the meaning of these questions? That is language. How he sits, how he situated on the sense objects, how he controls it, and how he walks, how he engages senses. Good. Okay, so the answer to the first question is the 55th verse. Hmm. So the main symptom of the Siddhir Muni is symptom. Hmm? Okay, he's satisfied. So he is not affected by varieties of desires for sense gratification, which arise out of mental concoction. Okay, and then we began the discussion. No, the second question, answer to the second question is what? Second question. Dukkeshu anudvignamana, sukkeshu vigata spraha. So is equipoised in happiness and distress. So when there's distress, what he thinks? Hmm. So he thinks I should have got much more punishment. And in happiness? Hmm. Good. Right. Okay, so now we began the discussion on the answer to the third question, 58th verse. So we will once again go through the 58th verse. So we are also discussing your open book question. So the first subtitle can be withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. 58. Yada samharate chayam kurmo anganiva sarvashah indriyanindriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from the sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs when the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So there are two analogies given here. One is of the tortoise. So when there's any danger, the tortoise withdraws its limbs within the shell. So similarly, what does the devotee do? Okay, so how is it possible to close? Okay, yes, that's right. So the senses are used only for the Lord's service, and when there is no service, then he does not unnecessarily use his sense for sense gratification. Right. The other analogy Prabhupada is giving is the senses are compared to snakes. Why? Why they compared to snakes? Hmm? Okay, what is proper, right? The snakes tend to act very loosely, so very difficult to control them. So snakes you see always moving here, there, very difficult to control. So similarly, the senses are very difficult to control, and the only way they can be controlled is by the snake charmer. So similarly, the devotee has to become like the snake charmer to control the senses. And what is that control? Hmm? What's Prabhupada writing? Yes, never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions that reveal scriptures. Some of them are do nots, some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and the do nots, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment is not possible to firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so restricting the senses means following the various rules and regulations. So by following the rules and regulations, one restricts the senses. Okay, so this is the first point. Second point is the next verse. विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport?
Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulation is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna is the course in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things.
So the next point is higher taste. Param drishvani vartate. So here, Srila Prabhupada is giving the analogy of diseased person. So when the diseased person is told not to eat something, does he lose the taste for eating? We all have experience, correct? But then why do we restrict? Yes, so that one gets cured of the disease. So one knows that if one doesn't follow the restrictions, then disease will increase. So therefore, one forcibly restricts oneself. So even though the mind may be craving and there's always the temptation, but still one restricts oneself because one wants to get cured from the disease. So similarly, as one is progressing on the path of devotional service, so the craving for sense objects remains. Correct? But then one restricts oneself because why?
Going to is going to make things worse, means bad for that person only.
So he restricts himself to for what? What is the main purpose? Yes, to get cured from the material disease. So Vishwanath Thakur in the Madhur Kadamini describes one of the amongst the 6 stages of Anishtita Bhajan Kriya. One of them is Vishaya Sangara. So there is Sangara. Sangara means Sangarsh. So on one hand, intellectually we understand sense gratification is bad. But then because still the tendency is there, temptations are there, so then still the mind pulls one towards sense gratification. So there's tug of war between mind and intelligence. So there's sangarsh, vishaya sangara. So that struggle will be there. Struggle will be there. But then how long one is going to struggle like that? How long to struggle? Huh? So when is that anatha going to happen? Hmm? Say that? What higher taste? Mm. Mm. Okay, fine. So the point is that the struggle will be there and that is required also. But if there's only struggle, forcibly trying to restrain, then it's very difficult, isn't it? So in the further purports, we'll read how Prabhupada gives the example of Vishwamitra, even so many thousands of years of tapasya, but still he fell down because the senses were not totally controlled, the mind and the senses were not totally controlled. So, therefore, as one progresses, it is essential that one develop a higher taste. Otherwise, simply forcibly trying to control cannot sustain for long. So then the next question arises. So how to develop the higher taste? Okay, so some questions for you. Okay, go ahead. Mm. Okay, simple, two. Two. Okay, done? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's begin from Suraj. So answer the first question. How is it possible to give up material enjoyments? Of course, the answer is in the next question.
Yes, of course, by developing a higher test.
So then that's the next question. Bolo.
Higher test means getting a joy in spiritual life more than in a sense gratification. Or we are
What does it
feeling
mean to have higher test? Okay, fine.
means still
So
now.
experiencing some pleasure and devotional service.
Yes,
Okay.
and the mentality.
But then they didn't ask this question. They forgot to ask this question. How to develop the higher taste? Tell one point how to develop higher taste.
If we will continue going on serving under the guidance of our authorities by his blessings and mercy, automatically we will develop higher test.
Okay, good point. Blessings and mercy of the Vaishnavas. Good. Next pass. So every group tell one point how to develop higher taste.
Guruji, by pleasing Vaishnavas and Lord.
अरे वही point हो गया. Okay, fine. Okay, no problem. Anybody else has any other point?
Actually, Guruji, when we are in association of great souls, we get an experience of how blissful is Krishna consciousness.
Acha, association. So what's your definition of a great soul?
Great souls means those who are like practicing Krishna consciousness from very long time, and
Acha,
they
so
are
what's your
really-
definition of long time?
I mean, I don't. I mean, to
See,
say-
everything is relative, you know.
Yes.
You see, from ants' viewpoint, even one day is very long.
I mean to say, Prabhuji, like in our movement, we consider great souls to be like proper disciples, sannyasis. Those are from long time stably practicing Krishna consciousness. So if we stay in sometime if we get their association, we get a bliss, how blissful they are in Krishna consciousness, even at their old age. So when we associate with them, we get a little taste of it. So if we continuously take association, so we can get a higher taste.
Okay, fine. Okay, association. Okay.
After taking association, we ourselves remains enthusiastic. To continue with enthusiasm, we can get higher taste. Maybe we may not be having higher taste right now, but remaining enthusiastic, we may get the higher taste.
Okay, so remaining enthusiastic while serving. Okay, good.
Roji, we see in the Bhagavatam like Shrunvatam Swakata Krishna. Punya
Hmm.
Shravan Kirtana.
Hmm.
So by reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam Bhagavad Gita scriptures from devotees, or when we read ourselves after hearing them, that also removes the anarthas, and then we take taste in those things which are helpful in progress of the spiritual life. So that gives us taste.
Okay, good. Purification by hearing and chanting. Okay. Yeah, ये रह गया ना ये group.
Right. Project devotees as well doing selfless service. So to see the situation of devotees, so we are actually feeling humble and serving for something for Krishna consciousness.
Okay, seeing the selfless service of devotees. Okay, good. Hmm.
Prashadam
वो-
is
ठीक है, बोलो.
Prashadam is one of the thing,
That needless to say.
Need-
Hmm.
Which this is also like hearing. I was telling about hearing. One of the aspect of hearing is about hearing about Krishna Katha. Another aspect of hearing is hearing about the futility of material enjoyment also.
Hmm.
And then we understand, at least analytically or theoretically, how material enjoyment is futile and spiritual happiness is eternal. We understand here that, and then we try to consciously practice in our life, even within the amidst available opportunities of sense gratification. We try to restrict ourselves, like exercising our willpower and determination. And then gradually, when we show that sincerity to Krishna, then Krishna bestows us with higher taste later on.
Okay, good point. Okay, by using willpower, determination to control. Okay, good. नहीं बाबा उनका हो गया उनको दे दो. हाँ.
Hare Krishna, we can develop the higher taste by making our intelligence strong, because we feel the struggle in this material world because
So how
of
do
the
you make your
duality.
intelligence strong?
By reading and hearing the lectures and reading the Shastra, we can make our intelligence strong, so that we will be formed and fixed and determined in the devotional service, so that we don't feel the dualities, the repercussions of
So what is your understanding of making intelligence strong? Simply by reading one can make intelligence strong?
Yeah, the Shastra, whatever the Shastra say, if you develop the firm faith in the Shastra, then
So how to develop firm faith?
means making our intelligence strong by reading the whatever the Shastra says, that is truth.
Okay,
on
so
the,
then you said one must have faith. So how to increase the faith?
the faith will be increased by in the association or devotees, whatever.
Okay,
this
good.
is.
Faith increases by association when those have faith. Okay, thank you. वो वहां पर एक है ना?
By rendering that service again and again, just like earlier, in beginning days we didn't have any taste in book distribution, but while we go with devotees, then we develop a taste for that. In Harinam Sankirtan we did not have the taste, but while practicing every day we go with the devotees, then we again develop a taste for that.
Okay, so association, in association rendering the service.
Even though we don't have a taste for that service, then if we go on continuously rendering,
Then the taste will, yes, that's also a good point. Yes.
One more thing that I observed for giving up material enjoyment is that authority is having a lot of faith on us. So definitely we will think that how I can break his faith or do something which will hurt him. Like this is what
Okay.
I heard from Radha Gopinath Prabhu also. that Radhanath Maharaj trust on them so much that whatever they desire. So because of
Okay, so one is one does not want to displease. One does not want to displease the other Vaishnavas. So therefore, yes, that's also correct. Okay, next question. So what is the mentality of the devotee who has given up sense enjoyment? I think that's sort of covered, no? What does it mean to be actually? Okay, those all are almost the same questions. Okay, what does it mean to be actually renounced? Sure. Okay, so you're talking about basically Yukta Vairag. Okay, real renunciation is Yukta Vairag. Okay, good. Okay, now the last question, give an example from personal experience.
Pruji, just thinking about the experiences of book distribution. When we go for book distribution, there are a lot of distracting events. There are a lot of alluring things around. But then when we are in the association of devotee, most often it's accompanied by Harinam and we go with book distribution. So most often those things doesn't so much bother us at that time because we are having a very, very higher like hook here in Krishna consciousness. At that time, we don't get too much distracted by those things. So that is just, I feel is an example of forgetting about sense enjoyment when we are feeling happiness in Krishna consciousness in that activity of whatever we are doing for Harinam book distribution. Sometimes some rich people is there. We may be thinking that okay, how we can like he can take more books. He has more money, so he can take more books. So that means we are not thinking about our own thing. We are thinking about how.
We're not thinking of how to get the house.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, fine. Okay, okay, good. So any specific experience somebody has?
Experience like Dindi Yatra, bus party. So, and
you tell your specific experience.
I mean,
खुद का बताइए.
Yes, in recently Gita contest, going and distributing many books in schools. So I totally forgot about other things. I mean, totally, it was like a feeling happiness in Krishna consciousness and then forgetting about the worldly things. So yeah, I had experience.
Okay, good. Huh.
Harishnu, Suji, actually, before 1 week I was in train. So by book distribution, doing book distribution, I feel happy and that people are doing anything in train. They are actually watching videos and playing cards. So that my experience, I chant some round, then goes to distribute books.
Then you didn't feel like playing cards.
No.
Okay, good.
I have been huge like voracious eater of sweet.
वो नहीं चल रहा है.
Hare Krishna, Krishna.
उसका वॉल्यूम कम है.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So I have been eating a lot of sweets actually since my childhood.
Oh, very nice.
So even situation was so bad that I used to search for opportunity when my brother and sister are not there. So I'll keep very little share for them and 80-90% I'll consume like that. But after coming in Krishna consciousness, I saw like initially we are given chance to eat, we eat also voraciously, too much. With that time we get service also. So when like nowadays when I make sweets, then I also get more happiness than that. So
you
I don't
make
know.
sweets.
Means now for serving like for prasadam, when we make sweets and when we serve that sweet to someone, that gives actually more happiness than we would have eaten a lot of sweets.
So now you don't eat.
I eat. I still eat, but that happiness, what I derive from.
Okay, so you first serve and then eat.
Kind of, yes. So
then how it has helped?
Sorry, Praji.
How it has helped?
It has helped to actually change the paradigm. Like when we try to serve our senses, I'm speaking theoretically, but I have experienced that also a little. That when we try to eat more, after some time there is a limit. But for serving, there is no limit. There will be 100 people. You'll be tearing apart pieces and want to give someone even little. So that gives satisfaction. What we get after eating.
Correct.
Yeah, more than that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Like during my working phase, I used to travel from a bus to my company, and it was really like only 2-3 boys, and other all were Matajis in the bus. But at that particular moment, means I used to hear lectures of Maharaj, or either I used to hear kirtans of Loknath Sai Maharaj, and by just hearing those divine vibration of these great souls, I used to remain aloof from these distractions.
Good. Yes, that's important thing. Okay, thank you. So here, Srila Prabhupada, he writes some very striking statements. What? but one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of the advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. So what does it mean to taste the beauty of the Supreme Lord? Beauty is to be seen, na? Then what does it mean to taste? You go and lick the deity or something? What experience?
Like anything about like for years experiencing the Lord's kirtan or katha, for eyes deity, for tongue maybe prasadam, for nose flowers.
For tongue, holy name is also there.
Yes, please. Holy name also is a prasadam, so it's included that both of them together. Holy name is also prasadam, bro. They included both. Prasadam means in terms of mercy, I told you.
Okay. Your point is correct, yes.
Like in Bhagavatam, it says Pibanti Rasamalayam. So it's like the nectar is there in all forms of Lord, either in Guna, Roop, Lila, Nam. So we taste it through our different senses, like through ears in the form of katha, through tongue in the form of prasadam, through nose in the form of other.
Okay, good.
flowers.
So you see, what is the meaning of the word drishtva? You see the word-to-word meaning Prabhupada gives? Drishtva means what? Experience. So one has to experience the beauty of the Supreme Lord. It is an experience. As they say, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So one has to experience. So through all the senses, one can experience the beauty of Krishna. So therefore, by engaging all the senses in Krishna's service, then one experiences the beauty. So that means to the degree one engages the senses in Krishna's service, to that degree one will experience the beauty and the taste of Krishna consciousness. And to the degree one gets that experience, then one no longer has a taste for dead material things. Dead material things. And in that context, we all know the story of Dhanurdas. Everyone knows, correct? So I was attracted to that lady. But then after Srimad Ramanacharya personally showed the beauty of Lord Ranganath. So, of course, that was a totally spiritual experience which he had. He didn't see simply deity. He actually saw the Lord and the Lord's beauty. So then he was immediately captivated, surrendered. So therefore, Prabhupada says, the last sentence, when one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. When one is actually Krishna conscious. So that means to the degree one is Krishna conscious, then automatically one loses taste for pale things. So what does it mean to be actually Krishna conscious? What does it mean to be actually Krishna conscious? So what does that mean? Going through?
It means we always talk about Krishna, think about Krishna, hear about Krishna. And we always want to do things related to Krishna.
Okay, that we're doing anyways, no?
But we are not 100% doing that, only that thing. We sometimes we have Krishna in our consciousness, in our words, in our deeds, but not always.
Okay, so sometimes it may not be there always. That's one point. That's correct. What else?
Speaks in his lecture and books also, it tells that being Krishna conscious means that he's engaged in a mission. Mission means ordered by someone, which means he's engaged in a service given by someone. And then he's doing that activity, and throughout the day he's engaged in that, like preaching, for he says he might be doing management that seems material from outside, but actually he's doing for his spiritual master in Krishna. So in that way he's engaged, then it is actually
Okay,
Krishna.
okay. Engaging oneself for Krishna source. Yes, Ashukumar.
Means that when we are in this anath nivritti state, there is a constant struggle. But
Mm.
when goes beyond this anath nivritti, goes to the ruchi and bhava, something like that, and then it becomes automatic for one to be in the Krishna conscious. There is no more struggle.
Okay, that's correct. That's true. When one comes to the higher stages, that's definitely true. But what till then?
There is a struggle always.
Okay, struggle is there. So then what's the solution?
One has to always keep in this Krishna conscious activities, absorb himself in the activities so that he forgets about this material enjoyment and all.
Okay, okay, good. Uh-huh.
Now the things is like seeing everything in relationship to Krishna. Like even theoretically, if we hear like seeing everything as Krishna's as a thing meant for Krishna's enjoyment, that is one thing. At least intellectually, we should be convinced by hearing lectures and by whatever we read. And second thing is another positive engagement for the mind can be always being engrossed in thoughts about our services or whatever goals which we are planning to have further in our practice of Krishna consciousness.
Okay, okay, that's what's correct. When one is actually Krishna conscious, that means being conscious of Krishna while doing all our activities. So any activity can be done simply as a ritual, or it can be done in the consciousness that I'm doing it for pleasing Krishna. Correct? So every activity we do from morning to night can either be done mechanically, ritualistically, or in a Krishna conscious. Just like right from the time we get up in the morning. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us how to wake up in the morning. How? Okay, so you mean to say the first thing you do when you get up is to sing that bhajan? So you know that pastime of Sarvam Bhattacharya? Sarvam Bhattacharya, after he became a devotee, then Mahaprabhu goes to the house. As soon as he knocks on the door, Sarvam Bhattacharya wakes up, and the first words that come out of his mouth are, yes, Krishna, Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very happy. So that's the way to get up. Krishna conscious way of waking up. So similarly, after that we take bath. So we can do that either mechanically or with the idea that this bath is meant for what? Because this body is, it's a temple of Krishna. So therefore I'm cleaning temple. So therefore, that also one does it properly, not crow bath. Kakasnan, you know what's kakasnan? I don't know now, I don't know so much about present day. But previously we saw there were devotees so expert, 4:25 they would get up and be ready by 4:30. You still have such yogis with mystic siddhis? You have now also? You have now also? So that is called kakasnan. You have seen crow or birds taking bath? So So even while taking bath, one has to be in that consciousness that I have to clean my body nicely so that I can offer it to Krishna. So then when we come for Mangalarti, so why do we come for Mangalarti? Acha, I thought it was for attendance. You have attendance, na? And if you don't attend, anything is there? You write Mahamantra if you don't attend Mangalati? How many times? Huh? 54. There's someone to monitor that? Huh? Acha. They write, huh? Good. So for that, one has to attend Mangalati, correct? So that one does not have to write Mahamantra. So actually, we have seen so many funny things. Huh? So sometimes we actually saw. So there would be some devotees. So somehow just finished. They didn't even get time to put tilak, and even the dhoti is like lungi, and no kurta also. So they come running. Maybe now it's not so much possible because a little bit distance is there. In Kunjibari, it was even more close. So they would just run before the third conch shell is blown, and then somehow put the P. And then once the P is put, go back and then do all the decoration. Then Aram se. Okay, not so bad. At least they came. But then what's the real purpose? What's the real purpose? Huh? What's the real purpose? Yes, that's true. What should be the right attitude? Huh, Gondru? Okay, to remember the Lord. Yes, and attend the Aarti because? Huh? Okay, is the order of Srila Prabhupada? Okay, that could be one reason.
Remember the mercy of the spiritual master when we recite those 8 verses.
Yes, to remember the mercy of the spiritual master. That's the reason why Srila Prabhupada instituted that, singing that Guru Ashtakam, so that we remember the mercy of the spiritual master as the first thing. And
to receive the merciful glance of the Lord.
To receive the merciful glance of the Lord, to please Him. Right. So that's the main purpose. So if one is simply coming there, mechanically standing, and the mind is wandering around somewhere, sometimes people do so many other things also. So in any case, so therefore, the point is, it's not about just the activity per se. It is how much we are conscious. So to the degree one is conscious of Krishna, then Krishna is pleased with the right attitudes, with the right consciousness. So any activity from morning to night, we can either be doing it in a mechanical way just because it has to be done, or one can do it with some consciousness that this activity is being done for Krishna's pleasure. Anything. So similarly, the chanting of the holy names, one couldn't be doing it in a totally mechanical way with the mind wandering everywhere. and then some others helping the mind to wander by voluntarily taking up things of distraction. So the main point is that this is what International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I was just listening to a lecture Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is saying, and that's the entire discussion in the 29th chapter of the 4th canto actually, where Narad Muni is telling King Prachin Barashit how the most important part of the body which really needs to focus is what? Yes, the mind. Why? Why? Okay, center of senses, right? Huh?
Because that is a function of mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. That's how.
Okay, that's correct. But why that subtle body is so important? Cause of bondage. Yes, that's correct. The subtle body is going to determine what? The next gross body. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Antakale chamam eva smaran muktva. Everything depends on what? The smaran. And where the smaran takes place? Subtle body. If you want, you can read that chapter, 29th chapter of the 4th canto. Narad Muni is so many verses explaining the importance of training the subtle body. Training, it requires training. And Prabhupada writes also in the purport to the 8th verse of the Nectar of Instruction, training the mind, training. So that's the training. To pull the mind away from so many other distractions and to focus the mind on the activity at hand. So ultimately, one has to come to the point where the subtle body is totally purified. Then one will get the spiritual body. So therefore, Prabhupada is writing, when one is actually Krishna conscious, so then one can taste the beauty of Krishna. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is not simply about simply performing some activities mechanically. One has to learn to invest one's consciousness while performing those activities. So just like both of you are in the kitchen, so while cooking, if you don't pay attention to what is being cooked, what happens? Jal jata hai na? Or sometimes things get overcooked, burnt. Or sometimes if you're cooking some something like gulab jamuns और वड़ा, तो कभी वो कुक क्या करते हैं? वो आग को बढ़ाते हैं फटाफट करने के लिए. उसे क्या होता है? हाँ, और अंदर कच्चा रह जाता है. So that means what? One has to be conscious. So then when one is conscious, I'm cooking this to offer to Krishna. If one is conscious, then one will cook in such a way that the best service is done so that Krishna is pleased. So that's how from morning to night, one can be conscious of what one is doing. So then when one is conscious, then obviously there's first class service. Correct? When there's first class service, Krishna is pleased. And by Krishna's mercy, one develops the higher taste. The higher taste is awarded by Krishna because he's pleased with the devotional service of the devotee. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically, then it's automatic. Then it's automatic. Because Krishna takes away the lower tastes, or he gives the higher taste, and lower taste automatically goes away, right? We often give that example. You have a whole plate of Mahaprasadam, then one need not be told that, oh, this is dry rotis, don't bother. No, that's automatic. So in that connection, there is this nice verse in the 11th canto. Let's see. Huh? Let me see if I can get it. No. Hmm? 20. Something else. Let's see. Just 1 second. Okay, we'll see later. Somewhere here in the 3rd chapter. Okay, I got it. Okay, it's 11:3:30. I saw 33. Okay. Okay. Parasparanukadhanam pavanam bhagavat yashah mito ratir mitastushti nivrittir mitha atmanaha. One should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. And by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. Okay, read the purport.
According to Srila Sridhar Swami, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness should not envy one another or quarrel amongst themselves. Giving up all such mundane feelings, they should gather together and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord for mutual purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that glorification of the Supreme Lord is especially potent when performed in the association of pure devotees.
Hmm.
When devotees in Sankirtan chanting the glories of the Lord together, they experience the highest highest transcendental bliss and satisfaction. Thus, they encourage one another to give up material sense gratification, which is based on illicit sexual connections with women. One devotee will say to another, "Oh, you have given up sense gratification. Starting today, I shall also give it up." One should learn to increase one's love for the devotees, to satisfy them, and to give up sense objects unfavorable to serving Krishna. And one should learn to view the entire universe as paraphernalia for Lord's service. By engaging the objects of senses in Krishna's service, one automatically becomes detached from them. And as one passes one's days in association of the Lord's devotees, one's transcendental ecstasy increases more and more. Through discussions about the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one who wants to be free from the harassment of Maya in the form of sense gratification must constantly associate with pure devotees of the Lord who have no engagement other than chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord and carrying out his mission on earth. Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that just as one should cultivate friendship with the devotees, one must cultivate a spirit of friendship toward demigods who manage the universe on the Lord's behalf. Thus, one should live peacefully within this world.
Hmm. Okay, and when that day, that Bhagavatam class was on demigod worship, those of you were there. So, so here, this is a conversation between Navyogendras and Maharaj Nimi. So they're telling that how one can give up sense gratification by performing devotional service in the association of devotees. Okay, so therefore, the more one is in the association of devotees, performing different services, chanting, dancing, performing services, hearing Krishna Katha. So therefore, it's always encouraged to be in the association, in as much as possible, the more one is in the association. So that will help us to overcome the pullings and pushings of the material energy. Okay. As he's writing, Srila Vishwanath Thakur has pointed out that glorification of the Supreme Lord is especially potent when performed in the association of pure devotees. Satam prasangan mamavidya samvido bhavanti ritkanna rasayana kata tajjoshna dasha pavargavatmani shraddharatir bhakti. And then in that association, then somebody may be feeling a little down, somebody may be more affected by Maya. Then he gets enthusiasm, encouragement from other devotees, as he's saying that, oh, you have given up sense, starting to, I should also give it. So that's how there's encouragement in the association of devotees. So therefore, the more one is in that association, then the more it becomes easy for one to give up sense gratification. So therefore, the more chances one gets to be in the association, one should try to be in association rather than trying to be alone. If one is alone, one becomes an easy victim to Maya. So therefore, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj would very often encourage brahmacharis, come together as much as possible, as much as possible. So therefore, he wanted all the devotees to come together for brahmachari class, Bhagavatam class, kirtans, even honoring prasadam. So just that association, it creates a different atmosphere. I don't know how many of you have seen those videos of many years back when His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj was there on planet. So, so many festivals, and so many of Prabhupada disciples, and Bhakti Maharaj, himself dancing, inducing others to dance, almost like crazy people. They would be dancing like mad people, totally out of the world. So that's like electrifying. So that's all very essential. Then in that association, when that is there, then one totally forgets material world, material sense gratification. Okay, what's the question?
Prabhuji, many times we see that those devotees who have got taste in Krishna consciousness, they sometimes come down. So now, as Prabhupada is giving here that thing, when an actually Krishna conscious, he automatically. So is it that they do not have taste, they are like acting on it, or it's very like clear cut statement of Prabhupada here?
What exactly is the question?
Means why we see then those great devotees fall down, then basically if one is having actually the taste.
It's not a one-time event. Till one comes to the stage of prema, there is always danger. And therefore, one always has to be alert. It's not till practically prema. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes, as we'll see later on, 14th chapter, as long as one has the material body, there is always a chance of being influenced by the lower modes. That's a classic example of Bharat Maharaj. So therefore, at no point of time, one can think that, oh, now I have got taste. Now, let me relax. Bodh. That is the best time when Maya will attack. So it's not like a one-time thing. So one always has to be alert, always has to be Krishna conscious. And as long as one has this material body, the process is to go on. Therefore, we hear that pastime very often of even Srila Prabhupada praying to the Lord to be protected from Maya. That's the nature of the material energy. And I'm sure most of us know the story of Srila Vyasadeva and Jaimini Rishi.
Yes.
Everyone knows the story?
Yes.
Okay, he doesn't know. So who wants to tell? Okay.
Yeah, actually, Vyasdev had a disciple, Jaimini Rishi. So he thought that he is free from Maya. He cannot be conquered by Maya. He told that statement, it seems, to his spiritual master, Vyasdev. So Vyasdev told, let us see. So he went out of station for some days, Vyasdev, instructing him to be in the hermitage. And so he thought that I will be able to remain free from Maya. And the Vyasdev himself, disguised as a young woman, he came in the dead of the night when it was stormy. It was very much raining outside. Yeah, and then he knocks on the door, and the Jaimini Rishi, he sees that there is a woman. So he says that, okay, you can come in. Then Vasudev himself in the form of the woman says, how can I come in? I am a woman. I cannot come in. So he said that, so you can come in, you can be in the another room. So he puts him in another room and then closes it and then says that even if I knock, even if let us say I come knock, you should not open. So in that was told, and then later on the same night he feels like, seeing what he's doing. So he goes from the top of the hut and then enters into the room, and then approaches that woman, and that woman and then suddenly turns out to be Vyasdev himself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So that's the power. So Jaimini Rishi, greatly advanced transcendentalist, spiritualist, but still. So therefore, at no point of time one can think I'm safe. One always has to be alert. And that's the lesson that we have to learn from others' examples. That's the lesson we need to learn. So anyone who became a little dhila, relaxed, after spending some years in Krishna consciousness, then the moment somebody becomes little dhila, finished, Maya is right there to attack. So therefore, the constant struggle, endeavor, determination that has to go on. Okay, fine. So I think so that was enough discussion on that one verse. Correct. But anyways, that's the crux of the matter. So therefore, it's worth spending some time. Okay, we have Prabhupada's lecture on that. Please read.
So here the Lord says, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina. Just like a person is diseased, he is advised by the doctor that you shall not take such and such things. So he is starving or he is fasting. Suppose in the typhoid fever, the doctor has advised him not to take any solid food. So under the instruction of the doctor, he is not taking any solid food. But suppose his brother is eating some bread. Oh, he likes that. If I could eat. But that means within himself, he is by force, by the instruction of the physician, he is forced not to eat. But within himself, he has got the tendency for eating. But out of fear that if I eat, there will be very bad reaction of taking solid food. Therefore, by force, he is not eating. Similarly, there are so many things which you are refrained from doing by force. No, that sort of abstinence will not make you progressive in spiritual life by force. No, by force I cannot. Because you are independent. Every individual being has got little portion of independence. So anything cannot be done by forcing you. No, even you cannot force even a child. He has got his independence. He will revolt if you force him.
So if there's only force, then after some time, person will revolt. Continue.
So here it is said that Vishya vinivartante. One may be refraining from enjoying materially by somehow or other, by force. Niraharasya dehina. Raso varjam rasopasya param drishva nivartate. But one who is spiritually advanced, he is not forced. He is voluntarily giving up. That is the difference. Voluntarily giving up? How? Why voluntarily giving up? Now, param drishva nivartate. He has found something sublime, so sublime that he doesn't care for material enjoyment. He is not forced. He voluntarily gives up. That is the criteria of spiritual life. There is no force. Just like there is a nice verse given by Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya, he was a great emperor, but later on he became a great devotee of the Lord under the disciplic succession. Now he has got very nice verses written by him. One of the verses is stated like this. Yadavati mama cheta Krishna pada
arvinde navanava rasa dhamani udyatam rantamasit Tadavati batanari sangame smaryamane bhavat mukha vikar shushtu nishtivanam cha. Prabhupada quoted this verse quite often. Yes. So here Yamunacharya is saying that yes, the thought may come. But the nari sangame smaryamane. So the thought may come of enjoying, but then how he responds to it. So, and why is able to respond like that? Navanava rasa. Why? Mama chitta Krishna padaravinde. Because the consciousness is the lotus feet of Krishna, and he's experiencing the newer and newer tastes, the rasa. So therefore he's able to spit. Spitting is easy. That anybody can do. People are spitting. But it is not simply artificial. So it is the feeling of disgust towards material enjoyment. Somewhere Prabhupada says the burden of sense enjoyment. The burden of sense. Continue.
He says the experience of his life. So he was a king. He enjoyed his life like anything. Now, after he became a great devotee, spiritually engaged, he expresses that experience in this way, that Yadavadi Mama Cheta Krishna Padarvinde. Since I have engaged my heart and soul in the supreme devotional service of the Lord, since then, what is the result? Yadavadi Mama Cheta Krishna Padarvinda. Navanavarasa Dhamni Udyatam Rantum Asit. I am getting every moment a new type of transcendental pleasure. Since then, Batanari Sangame. This is materially. Nari Sangam means sex life, combination of man and woman. Nari Sangame. He says that since then, that whenever I think of sex life, because he has experienced, he was a family man, he was a king. He said that whenever I think of not to act, but whenever I think of sex life, oh, I say now, tu, as if spitting.
Prabhupada actually makes the sound.
So param drishtva nivartate. Why this life has come to him? Because he has seen something. He has experienced something, which is transcendental pleasure. And in comparison to the transcendental pleasure, this material pleasure is just like spitting. You see, very insignificant. So here it is said, rasavarjam rasopasya param drishtva nivartate. One who is forcibly refrained from material enjoyment. Oh, that sort of forcibly material enjoyment cannot last. Cannot last. There are many examples. There was a great Muni, great sage whose name was Vishwamitra Muni. Vishwamitra. We have to always send person be engaged in spiritual activities. That should be the program of our life. Rather, in spiritual life, you will hardly find any time to get out of it. You have got so much engagement. Rasovarjam. And that engagement can only be possible when you find some transcendental pleasure in it.
Yes. Okay, so one has to be fully engaged in Krishna's service and the association of devotees. Then one can experience the higher taste. Then one can give up the lower taste. Okay. And that has to be constantly present. Not 1 day, 2 days. No, it's a constant endeavor. Okay, 60th verse. Yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipashitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabham manaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who's endeavoring to control them. Vipashchita, not ordinary person. Vipashchita, man of discriminating knowledge. So he is able to discriminate between right and wrong. But even for such a person, the senses are so strong that they carry away the mind. So the mind is supposed to control the senses, but here what is said? The senses take away the mind. So similarly, intelligence is supposed to control the mind and the senses. But then, if the intelligence is not sufficiently strong, the senses and mind will take the person away. So just like that same example of the chariot, if the driver who's driving is not strong, then what will happen? Horses will go wherever they want. So same thing. So if the mind and the intelligence are not strong, then the senses will just carry over the person. And not ordinary person, vipaschitaha. And therefore Prabhupada begins his purport by saying there are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated minds. Not ordinary person, even the greatest of them. Prabhupada has written the purport to 1.2.17 Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the verse? 1.2.17? Yes. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada has written, great stalwarts have fallen victim to money and women. Great stalwarts, not ordinary people. So one has to understand that's the power of the illusory energy. So therefore, one always has to be extremely careful. And then Prabhupada is giving the example of Vishwamitra, and again he quotes Yamunacharya. And then he writes, Krishna consciousness is such a transcendently nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. It is as if a hungry man had satisfied his hunger by sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. Then is an example of Maharaj Ambarish. Okay, so basically we saw 2 points. One is, what was the first point? What's the first point? In the process of sense control, what's the first point? Are Baba, aapka OBA. Process of sense control, that's the question, right? So what is the first point we discussed? What is that? Yes, withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. So that is the first point. The example of the tortoise and snake charmer. Then second point is, yes, developing a higher taste. So now we're going to the third point. So this is how you're supposed to write your answer. That's why we're telling you these things. Systematically, point by point. 61. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasya indriyani tasya prajna pratishtitha. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. So now, Krishna is talking about one more point, one more aspect. So one thing is Tani Sarvani Samimya, that is controlling the senses, but that's not sufficient. What is the next thing? Yukta Asita Matparaha. Yukta means engaging the senses in Krishna's service. So that's the third point. Engaging the senses in Krishna's service. And in that way one can control. Okay. And here Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Ambarish Maharaj and how he controlled all the senses. So he has given all those verses. And read the last paragraph of the purport.
The word Matvara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and acharya, in the line of the Matpara remarks, Mat Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijapurvika Swatma Drishti Sulabheti Bhava. The senses can be controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is given sometimes. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so called yogis who meditate on something other than Vishnu simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga.
Okay, so the senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. So by engaging all the senses in Krishna service. Now, if one does not do all these things, if one does not engage the senses, the mind in Krishna's service, but rather engages them in sense gratification, then what is the result? Krishna is explaining in the next two verses. Again, well-known verses. Dhyaito vishayan pumsa sangastes upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So, as Prabhupada writes the first sentence, one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they're not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. So, therefore, especially for brahmacharis, it's very important to keep oneself fully engaged in Krishna's service. If there is any empty time, idle brain is devil's workshop. So therefore, one should not keep oneself idle. That will, so then that's how one invites Maya to come. So therefore, the senses require real engagements. Prabhupada is giving an example, Haridas Thakur, Maya Devi. And then it concludes the purport by saying, as illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. 63. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Who's the classic example for all this? Yes, Ajamil. So see, the problem is not with seeing the sense objects. The problem is with contemplating the sense objects. That's the mistake of Ajamil. So he saw that scene, okay, if he left it there, it's fine. But then the problem is he carried it in his mind. That's the problem with dhyayato. So if one is always contemplating on the sense objects, then there's every possibility of hankering for the sense objects because one develops attachment to them. So therefore, then everything else happens. So Prabhupada is talking about engaging all the senses in Krishna's service, eating prasadam offered to the Lord, and thus everything becomes spiritualized and there's no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, non-devotee rejects it as material. That's the Mayavadis. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. That's about the Mayavadis. Because they don't get the higher taste, so therefore they're not able to sustain their renunciation. So these are some very important points for our practical application, which Krishna is speaking about here. All right, we'll take a break and continue. lecture on these verses. Please read.
You have to change the engagement. So the yogis and other methods, they are trying to control the senses by force. I shall go to the Himalayas. I shall not see any more beautiful women. I shall close down my eyes. These are forceful. You cannot control your senses. There are many instances. You don't require to go to the Himalaya. You just remain in Los Angeles city and engage your eyes to see Krishna. You are more than a person who has gone to Himalayas. You will forget all other things. This is our process. You don't require to change your position. You engage your ears for hearing Bhagavad Gita as it is, you will forget all nonsense. You engage your eyes to see the beauty of deity Krishna. You engage your tongue for tasting Krishna's prasadam. You engage your legs to come to this temple. You engage your hands to work for Krishna. You engage your nose to smell the flowers offered to Krishna. Then where your senses will go? He's captivated all around. The perfection is sure. You don't require to control your senses forcibly. Don't see, don't do it, don't do it. No. You have to change the engagement.
So that's the practical thing. Okay, take 64. Ragadvesha vimuktestu vishayanendriyescharan atmavasher videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Purport.
It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable, and if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control, because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform.
This is an important verse. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu. So in the previous verses, Krishna spoke about what is the result of meditating on sense objects, dhyato vishyan pumsa. So now he is saying, what is the solution to this? Because when one meditates on sense objects, then the result is raga dvesha. Raga is attachment, dvesha is hatred. So in this material world, that's all what goes on. I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like this. So therefore, I will work hard to get what I want and avoid what I don't want. That's what everyone is working hard for, right? Everyone is working hard to get money. So with money, what one can get? One can get what one wants and avoid what one does not want. So with money, one can go to nice restaurants and eat what one likes, and go to the clothes shop and buy clothes what one likes, and so on. And what one does not like, oh, I don't like the colds, so get heater. I don't like the heat, so get the AC. So this is what is material world. So therefore, as one devotee was explaining, this entire material world is like a prison house with the bars of raga and dvesha. The prison bars are what? Raga and dvesha. The entire material world is busy in this raga dvesha business. I like this, so I'll work hard to get it. I don't like this, I'll work hard to avoid it. That's what's happening. And they're so busy in this that they forget everything else. You may have heard of that scientist Palo and his experiment with the rat. Huh? Okay, who would like to tell that scientist experiment with the rat? Hey, you shook your head.
So there was an experiment with a rat that they kept a rat on the prison and they kept two platforms. So on one of the platform, they kept a live wire, electric shock, and on the platform they kept some delicious thing like puri or something. So
cake.
Okay. Cake.
You don't like cake?
So the rat went to the cake and he liked it. So he was delighted with the pleasure with what he's getting to the cake. Then he went to the next platform. He got the shock. So he developed some hatred. I should not go there. And this they did for some more time. So he got habituated that here is the pleasure, here is the pain. After some time, they reversed the situation. They kept one side electric current and other side cake. So now he was confused. Here is electric shock and here is the cake. And then he got habituated with the same thing. But after some time, with this same thing, they kept the gate open, the gate to go out. So the rat was so much confused. Here is pleasure and here is pain. Here is pain and pleasure. He forgot the gate is open to get out of the entire cage.
Correct. Right? And the cake was outside. But he never saw it because he was so busy with this ragadvesha, 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 ragadvesha. How to get what I want? How to avoid what? So the rat got so busy, he didn't see that the gate is open and there's nice cake outside. So that's exactly what happens in the material world. So everyone is so busy with this ragadvesha business that one never thinks of getting out of it. Everyone is just working for this ragadvesha. So therefore here Krishna is saying ragadvesha vimuktaistu. Give up this ragadvesha business. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, he gives the actual meaning of what does it mean to give up the raga and dvesha. What is Prabhupada saying? What is the actual way to give up the raga and dvesha? So the same raga and dvesha can be applied in Krishna's service. So raga must be for what? Krishna's satisfaction, and dvesha for that which is not Krishna's satisfaction. And so therefore Prabhupada is writing, if Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. But then Prabhupada says, this consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord. So that same ragadvesha which we have, that has to be dovetailed in Krishna's service. So I will do something if Krishna likes. And one is ready to do anything if Krishna wants him to do it. So we all know that well-known example. Yudhishthira Maharaj didn't want to tell a lie because he was thinking, I don't like to tell lies. But now Krishna is telling him. So Prabhupada says because of that, he had to see hell for a few seconds. So therefore, devotee is ready to do anything if that is what Krishna wants. Of course, Srila Prabhupada himself is the best example for that. And of course, so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Of course, we can tell so many stories. but you may have heard some of them. So we know how Brahmanand Prabhu and Gargamuni Prabhu went to Pakistan and Bangladesh on Srila Prabhupada's instruction, even though it was so difficult, so difficult. I think so many of us know Tamal Krishna Maharaj and the moon story, right? And China story. No, that's connected. Anyways, so so we know how Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because he was kidnapping brahmacharis from the temples. So then, and all the temple presidents were very upset, and there was a big complaint and all that. So then finally in Mayapur, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada tells Tamal Krishna Maharaj, no more service for you. Either you go to China or you sit under a tree and chant throughout the day. No other service. And so then Tamal Krishna Maharaj chose to go to China. And you know how he went to China? This we recently heard from His Grace Rameshwar Prabhu. So these are untold stories. So, so there was one sannyasi, his name was Drishtadyumna Swami. So his father he was in some top position in some wine company. Wine, selling wines. So of course that, so he was the father of this Drishtadyumna Swami. So of course the father was not so favorable to Krishna consciousness. But anyway, so then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because it's communist China, they're not going to give visas to enter for religious purposes. There's no question about it. So therefore, so then Tamal Krishna Maharaj requested this Drishtadyumna Swami to request his father to get visas for them on the pretext of they being agents for selling wine. And so because this man was running these multinational companies, so he managed to get for these two devotees. And that's how they entered China, as agents for selling wine. So we are supposed to refrain from wine and all these things. And now they're going as agents for selling wine. Think about it. How many of us would be ready for that? But they did it. And that's how they entered China. So that's the point. And you have also heard that story of that person who told, again, it was who? Tamal Krishna Maharaj and who, one more person? Who, there was this person who said he'll become life member if they took the cold drink and put it on their heads. Giraj Maharaj? So they did it to make that man a life member. So this is the real meaning of raga and dvesha. It's not based on what I like and what I don't like, but it is based on what Krishna likes or what is favorable to Krishna's service. Then one is ready to do anything. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. I read this in Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. So Shamsundar Prabhu, we know he went with Srila Prabhupada to Russia. So that itself was very bold, of course. And so in Russia, so we heard that how there was this Indian boy and this Russian boy who came to meet Srila Prabhupada. So in any case, so in Russia, things were not easily available. So they went to get rice. So they only got some thick rice, Korean rice, thick rice. So Prabhupada said, this is useless. You can't eat this. So milk was easily available. So they got milk. And so Srila Prabhupada told this devotee who was cooking prasadam for Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada met with two devotees, Shamsundar Prabhu, and I'm forgetting the name of the other devotee, who went to cook. So Srila Prabhupada told this cook devotee, he told him, so mix the milk and the rice, put sugar, make sweet rice. So they were allowed to cook in the kitchen of that hotel where they were staying, National Hotel. So they were allowed to cook there. And so this cook, to make that sweet rice, he took a huge quantity of sugar and made the sweet rice. Later on, that person who was managing the kitchen, he was furious. He was furious. You know, you finished off all the sugar. So in any case, so then after the sweet rice was made, so then Prabhupada said for the next 3 days, that's what we'll eat. There was nothing else to eat. Sweet rice and chapatis. That's how Prabhupada, you know, how much adjustment Prabhupada made at that age. Can't imagine. 3 days, only sweet rice and chapatis. And so he made that sweet rice, and then he filled up Prabhupada's cooker. So they didn't have many utensils. You know. So whatever small utensils that he filled up everything. And still there was some sweet rice remaining. So he asked Srila Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, where to put this remaining sweet rice? Prabhupada said, you get the lota from the bathroom. So the devotee said, Prabhupada, that's not clean. Prabhupada said, doesn't matter. He's throwing prasadam is a sin. Don't throw prasadam, get the lota. So you can't imagine what Prabhupada did and did not do to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. But that's how. So therefore, it's very important that we read these things. There's no question of attachment to our personal likes and dislikes. So Prabhupada went to such extreme. You can, if any Indian sannyasi, you know, from any of the other organizations even reads this, they'll be shocked. But then that's how, I mean, of course, the first thing to even think for a sannyasi to even imagine staying in that Bauri, sharing a room with a drug addict. Now, even that's far beyond one's imagination. happens. So what Srila Prabhupada went through to start this movement, it's something which is unimaginable. Therefore, those who actually know it, even people of other organizations, then they appreciate. What your Swamiji has done, we cannot do. It's unimaginable. Unimaginable. So, that was the surrender of Srila Prabhupada. Just anything to satisfy Krishna, to preach Krishna consciousness. Of course, we can't imitate these things. No, we can't imitate, but we have to understand the point, the Siddhanta that Prabhupada is writing here. So when Prabhupada writes this, Prabhupada is writing with so much of realization because that's what he actually did. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything, literally anything, which is ordinarily undesirable. Even from an ordinary mundane Brahmana perspective, somebody would say, oh, that's unclean. The devotee is saying, Prabhupada, it doesn't matter. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. So that's perfectly dovetailing raga and dvesha in Krishna's service. But then another important point here is raga dvesha vimuktestu vishayan indriyes charan charati. So what the indriya are doing? Charati. Yes. The indriya are always munching, grazing on what? Vishayan. What's the solution? Atmavasher videyatma. So Prabhupada translates videyatma as one who follows regulated freedom. And in the translation it says regulative principles of freedom. So ordinarily one thing following rules and regulations is giving up freedom. So how do we explain this? Regulative principles of freedom. Yeah, Baju mein.
I heard from Radhasyam Prabhu, he gives many examples for this, that how restriction is not essentially restricting freedom. Restriction is to like enhance freedom more.
How?
He gives the example of a gas cylinder. Like if it is properly...
Okay, you're the valve.
Yeah.
Right, so basically, if one follows the rules and regulations, one gets the real freedom. Which freedom? Which freedom? What's the real freedom? Yes, the freedom from the three modes. That's what is real freedom. That's what is binding. So by following the rules and regulations, one gets the real freedom. And by not following rules and regulations, one becomes bound. So therefore, regulative principles of freedom. So the more one follows rules and regulations nicely, the more freedom one gets. So sometimes one thinks, Arey, what in this brahmachari ashram, so many rules, regulations. Let's be a little free. But that freedom is only illusory. Because the reality is what? Actually, there is more bondage by that so-called freedom. And by properly following rules and regulations, one gets the actual freedom. Like Narad Muni. How much freedom Narad Muni has? Traveling spaceman. He goes anywhere. So much freedom. So, but if one wants to achieve that freedom, then one has to give up this raga dvesha business of the material worlds and the real raga dvesha on the spiritual platform. Then what will be the result of that? Prasadam adhigacchati. Then one will get the prasadam, the real prasadam. That's mercy. And then what's the result of that prasadam, the mercy? Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishtate. For thus one satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So when one gets prasada, prasade, sarva dukkhanam hani, what does that mean? So if one gets the mercy, there will not be any miseries in the material world. Material world will stop. It's giving its miseries. Yes. Why won't be affected? Why won't be affected? The answer is here only. Prasanna chetasa. Because he's experiencing higher taste. Because he's experiencing a higher taste. So therefore, even though the miseries may be there, he is not affected by them. He's not affected by them. Like Prahlad Maharaj says that Shoche tato vimukhan in aage. What is that verse? Tvad mahamrita magna chittaha. Magna chittaha. So because his consciousness is totally absorbed in hearing, chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, even though he is undergoing so many miseries, he doesn't feel up, or he's not affected by those miseries. Rather, he's thinking about miseries of others. He himself is going through so many miseries, but he's not affected by that because Mahamrita Magna Chitta, because his consciousness is on a higher spiritual platform. So therefore, he is not affected. Therefore, he is able to think about the miseries of others, the suffering of others. So that's what happens when one receives the mercy of the Lord. As in the previous purport, Prabhupada writes, this consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord. So when one is satisfied, prasanna chetaso yashu, then buddhi paryavatishtate, then one's intelligence is established in Krishna consciousness. 66. Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukam. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. Okay, so if one's intelligence, one's mind are not fixed in Krishna, then there is no question of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So if one is not peaceful, how can there be happiness? As Prabhupada writes, therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. That's an important point. If one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Okay, so when the goal is not clear, then the mind is jumping. I want this, I want this, I want this. Mind is jumping, not steady. But when the goal is clear, only one thing. What? What? Only one goal. What? Krishna. Only Krishna. So the mind doesn't keep jumping. That's how one can be peaceful. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shant. So that is the reason why one is peaceful, because one is Nishkam. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace, however much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness, this is a beautiful statement. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition. Means what? Means what? Hmm?
This is naturally, it's not that an artificial imposition, like Prabhupada says. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial, it's a natural state of it.
Correct. Self-manifested. From inside, it's self-manifested. It's a self-manifested peaceful condition. To the degree one establishes relationship with Krishna, then the peace will manifest from within, because one becomes peaceful. Why one becomes peaceful? No other desire. No other desire other than the desire to please Krishna. So when that goal is fixed, then automatically one becomes peaceful. And so it's a self-manifested peaceful condition. When the relationship with Krishna is established, automatically the peace manifests. And when the relationship with Krishna is not there, then there's a vacuum in the heart, a vacuum in the consciousness. Without Krishna, there's a vacuum. Can a vacuum ever be empty? No. Then the vacuum will suck something. So when the relationship with Krishna is not established, or to the degree the relationship with Krishna is not established, there's a vacuum. And then that vacuum has to be occupied by some other activities, material activities. So then in the world outside, the heart is a full vacuum. And therefore they try to fill it with what? With everything what they're doing. Whether it is sports or movies or whatever materialistic activities people are doing, ultimately they're meant for what? Ultimately they're meant for finding satisfaction. Everyone wants to be happy, satisfied. They're trying to find satisfaction in all those other activities, but they are never satisfied unless that relationship with Krishna is established. But then Krishna says that, but to come to that platform, one has to be careful. Why? Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano no vidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayu navam ivambasi. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a mind's intelligence. Even one of the senses. So one may say, especially the tongue. So it said that in the teachings of the Avadut Brahman in the 11th canto. So he says that if one says all my senses are under control except the tongue, he says it is as good as saying all the senses are uncontrolled. Because if the tongue is uncontrolled, then it's just a matter of time that all the other senses also will become uncontrolled. So that's why he says even one of the roaming senses. So if we allow even one of the senses to roam around, it will affect all the other senses also. So the point is one has to be extremely careful. Then that one roaming sense will carry away the mind's intelligence. Tadasya harati prajnam. Just like Vayu, just as the wind will carry away a boat. So therefore Prabhupada says, as mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. 68. Tasmadyasya mahabaho nigritani sarvashah indriyan indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from the objects is certainly of steady intelligence. So he's sort of summarizing. Now, in the next verse, he compares those whose mind and senses are focused on sense gratification and those whose mind and senses are focused on Krishna consciousness or spiritual life. He's comparing both of them. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Okay, so basically these are two classes. Okay, you can read this purport.
There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with the self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions.
Okay, so the verse is of course literally also true. So when devotees go to sleep, then the materialistic people actually wake up. Actual life begins at that time, correct? You go to these big cities and all these nightclubs and restaurants, they open at 10 p.m. That is their opening time. And when do they close? 4 a.m. So I've literally seen it in Bangalore. So there was one center. Just opposite that, there was one juice shop. What was the name? A very amazing name it was. Anyway, so that would, of course, that would be open throughout the day also, but then it would close at around that time, 3 a.m. It would close. So anyways, but then this is talking about, as Prabhupada writes, two classes of intelligent men. That's interesting, isn't it? One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification. That means even that requires intelligence. And so Prabhupada says that, so these materialistic people, in order to earn money, then how much intelligence are they applying? So much of intelligence they're applying to earn money, to loot people. So much of intelligence is required. So they are also intelligent, but then it's all misdirected. And the others are intelligent for cultivation of self-realization. Okay, 70. Apuryamanam machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, and alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport?
Although the vast ocean is always filled with the water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has material body, the demands of the body for the sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like waters of rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by the desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of Krishna conscious man who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill the desire even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruitive worker, the salvationist, and also the yogi who are after the mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But a person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from so called material bondage. The devotees of the Krishna have no material desires and therefore they are in perfect peace.
Okay, so Krishna is explaining here with the help of this analogy how a devotee is always peaceful. So the important point here is that, so what's the analogy? Just like the rivers are entering into the ocean, but still the ocean doesn't cross its brinks. It remains steady. So similarly, Prabhupada says, desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he's steady in his activities and he's not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna consciousness. One has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Okay, so the desires may be present. The desire for sense gratification may be present, but the devotee is able to control himself and not act on those desires. And why he is able to control himself and not act on those desires? Yes, because he's experiencing a higher taste. Because he's experiencing a higher taste, so therefore, even though desires may be present, that's what Yamunacharya also is saying, right? The thought may come, but he is not interested in satisfying them because of deep conditioning from time immemorial, so many lifetimes. So therefore, desires may be present, but because the devotee experiences higher taste, therefore he doesn't act on those desires, and therefore he is peaceful. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady. Okay, and then he doesn't even desire liberation. And the last verse, 71. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumam charati nispruha nirmamo nirhankara sashantim adigachati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. And here Prabhupada defines what does it mean to become desireless. To become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desiring for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. And here, Srila Prabhupada is giving the answer to your sub-question in your essay. What is the sub-question? How is that process of sense control applicable to Arjuna's situation on the battlefield? Correct? So Prabhupada is giving that answer here in this purport. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. So real desirelessness is the desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but it does have to change the quality of the desires. That's all what needs to be changed. Quality of the desires. And the last verse, 72. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuyati sthitvasyam antakale api brahma nirvanam ruchyati. That is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Brahma nirvanam ruchyati. So that will be the result if one is situated in spiritual consciousness on the Brahman platform. Esha Brahmi Sthiti, that means situated on the Brahman platform or the spiritual platform, then at the end of one's life, one can achieve Brahman. If one is in Brahman consciousness, one can achieve Brahman. So the word Brahma Nirvanam can have different meanings for different transcendentalists. So the word Nirvanam is used by different transcendentalists. Even the Buddhists speak of Nirvana. But what is their understanding of Nirvana? Voids, merge into the voids, nothingness. How can one merge in nothingness? Funny. And the impersonalists also, they also talk about the same thing, Brahma Nirvanam. So if you have ever heard some of the so-called top spiritualists, spiritual leaders in India speaking, then they speak about Brahma Nirvanam, Brahma mein vileen hona, उस निराकार ब्रह्म में विलीन हो जाए. So, so they also have the same concept of Brahma Nirvana. But what is their understanding? Merging into the impersonal Brahman. And here Krishna is also talking about Brahma Nirvana. But what is this understanding of Brahma Nirvana? Being situated in one's constitutional position as eternal servant of Krishna. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in the middle of the purport, before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. You read that? There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. So that means if one is fully engaged in devotional service, where one is? In the spiritual world. So therefore one can be in the spiritual world right here in the material world by being Krishna conscious. So then it doesn't matter where one is. Therefore Mahaprabhu says, Mama Janmani Janmanishu. Because he's not in the material world anyways. Even in the material world is in the spiritual world. So what difference it makes? Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. Attainment of Krishna consciousness even during this life is immediate attainment of Brahman, and one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Already entered. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita as being the contents of the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents of the complete text. Thus, in the Bhakti purports to the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the matter of its contents. And we are going to chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Okay, chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So see, we have covered so many basic concepts that the rest of the 4 chapters will actually go quite fast. Now one can climb very swiftly on the yoga ladder because one has understood all the steps and the futility of all the steps. Okay. Okay, chapter 3. Some sections of the chapter 1 to 2, equivocal jnana or fights. Therefore, tad ekam vada. 3 to 9, karma yoga superior to karma sannyas. 10 to 16, karma kand to karma yoga. I'm sure that you have this in your handbooks, right? 17 to 21, atmarati, no duty, to set an example. 20 to 24, Krishna sets example. 25 to 35, don't disturb the attached, but show example. 36 to 43, Nitya Vairina, eternal enemy lust. Okay. First verse. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhi janardhana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojasi keshava. Arjuna said, "O Janardhan, O Keshav, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?" So can you say why Arjuna is asking this question at this point of time? So everyone meditate for half a minute on why Arjuna is asking this question. That's how we should know what is the connection between the previous chapter and this one. Yes, any thoughts?
Karma Kanda. And then he says Karma Kanda is not good. Acting in Buddhi Yoga is good. And then he describes all this Thita Pragya, all those symptoms and others. So now at this point of time, since Buddhi Yoga is better, so he's asking why you are like, he's bit confused. First you glorified Karma Kanda and then you are criticizing Karma Kanda. What should I do practically? So that's why he's asking.
Okay, fine. You had something? Huh? You're not raising your hand? Okay. Fine. Okay. Go and throw something valuable to.
Maybe Prabhuji, he's talking here that intelligence maybe is he want to say that if intelligence is important, then why don't we just speculate things and why we have to do practical work?
Okay. Anybody else?
Prajit, from this, he's referring to fruitive work. Means, why not? Why you are saying from fruitive work, which means that work which is going to result in that work which is going to give some results, fruits. So he's saying why not to be just like, not working only, not doing so, not doing kind of anything. So in that way he'll be like not involved in fruitive results. Yeah.
Yes.
Just
So basically, so as we see in the flow of the verses in the previous chapter, first Krishna spoke about fighting on the Karma Kanda platform. It is very beneficial. Either you win the battle or you lose the battle. There's benefit. And then Krishna turns the whole thing around and then he says, no, don't bother about all this victory, defeat, happiness, distress. Act in Buddhi Yoga. So now, see, we have all these commentaries by which we understand the meanings of these words and all that. Arjuna had any commentaries? No. He was just hearing Sanskrit verses and he has to figure out everything on his own. So now we know everything beforehand because Prabhupada has already given commentaries. But Arjuna didn't have anything. So when Arjuna was hearing the word Buddhi Yoga, he was thinking that Buddhi Yoga means simply using one's intelligence to meditate on the Supreme and going to a secluded place and doing some meditation. That was Arjuna's understanding of Buddhi Yoga. And then later on, again, Krishna tells Arjuna that he must engage all the senses in the Lord's service, he must fight. So therefore, thinking that Buddhi Yoga is simply meditating on the Supreme, now Arjuna is asking, you said Buddhi Yoga is better, then why you're telling me to fight? That is what is Arjuna's question. Therefore, you see in the purport what Prabhupada writes, that And the path of self-realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna, a secluded place where one may acquire only cheap adoration of the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or Buddhi Yoga or intelligence and spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to the best course of action. Okay, so that's the reason why Arjuna is asking this question, because he's sort of confused because he didn't get the exact meaning of Buddhi Yoga. He didn't actually understand what's Buddhi Yoga. So that was his interpretation of the word Buddhi Yoga, going to some secluded place and doing some meditation. So therefore he says in the next verse, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohoyasiva me tadekam vada nishitya yena shreyoham apnuyam. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Okay, so Vyamishreneva, equivocal, means it appears as if Krishna is given equal importance to fighting and not fighting. That is his interpretation of Buddhi Yoga. So on one hand, Krishna said, fight, you win, you'll get the kingdom, you die, you go to the heavenly planets. So it appears that Krishna has emphasized fighting. And then Buddhi Yoga, no fighting. How can one do fighting, no fighting at the same time? So this is what is meant by equivocal instructions. So therefore he says, Tad ekam vada nishitya. Tell me one thing definitely. Should I fight or not fight? So sometimes even in our life, sometimes we get some like this equivocal instructions we may get, right? So somebody may get instruction, go for book distribution, and then after 2 days, don't go. Then one will be confused, no? Should I go or not go? So it's something like that. So it appears as if Krishna is told, fight and don't fight. Now what to do? So tell me one thing, Baba. How can I do both at the same time? So that is why he's saying, Nishitya, definitely, tell me one thing. Okay, read this purport.
In the previous chapter, as a prelude to Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruitive desires, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of Bhagavad Gita.
Right. So basically, Krishna has spoken about so many things. He spoke about Karma Kand, he spoke about Nishkam Karma Yoga, he spoke about Buddhi Yoga, he spoke something about Bhakti Yoga. So many things were spoken. So therefore, Arjuna is sort of confused. And also, as Prabhupada writes, many people also think that practice of spirituality means inertia. Practice of spirituality means going to some secluded place, meditating. So that's the idea of spirituality which many people have. And so that was also the idea that Arjuna had. And so therefore, Arjuna is actually clearing the path for the benefit of everyone. Okay, read this.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary to 3.1. A fixed intelligence, buddhi, bhakti, transcending the gunas is superior Jayasi, then why do you engage me in this terrible action in the form of war? O Janardhan, by your order, you are causing pain, Ardhan, to your own associate, Jan. It is
So again,
also
what? He's misusing this Janardhan. He's saying you're causing pain to me by giving this order to fight.
It is also not possible to avoid following your order, O Keshav, controller of even Brahma and Shiva. Ka means Brahma, Is means Shiva, and Va means Vayase, you control.
Okay, so that's the significance of using these two words, Janardhan and Keshava. So on one hand, he's saying you're causing pain to me. On the other hand, he's saying, but at the same time, I cannot disobey your order because you're so powerful. You control even Brahma and Shiva. Okay, read this.
O my friend Arjuna, it is true that bhakti beyond the gunas is supreme. But since that is obtained only by the mercy of my great pure devotees in an unexpected manner, it is not attained by the efforts of the individual. Therefore, I have given a blessing to you. Be transcendental to the gunas, Nistraigunya Bhava. Be transcendental to the gunas by transcendental bhakti. When this blessing matures, you will attain bhakti by such unexpected mercy of the pure devotee. As it is fitting to the present circumstances, directing you to engage in activity is also valid using the words karmane vadhikaraste. You are qualified for action. Then why do you not clearly tell me to engage in activity? You throw me into an ocean of doubt. You bewilder my intelligence by those words which are mixture of various meanings. Vya Mishrena. Though you have mentioned about action, karmanyavadika raste, you also speak of jnana, using the word yoga in such statements as the following. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Buddhi yukto jahate ubhe Shukta
Sukrute Dushkrute.
Sukrute Dushkrute. And you speak only of knowledge in such statements as Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitar
Tadashyati.
when your intelligence has completely crossed the denseness of illusion. Confusion arises in Arjuna's mind because of the use of the word buddhi and sama, which are associated with jnana. In Karmane Vadhikaraste, the Lord also speaks about complete renunciation of the fruits. And by the end of chapter 2, Krishna shows that Niskam Karma matures into Jnana.
So basically, the point is that why Arjuna is confused is because of all these different things that Krishna is speaking. Okay, so on one hand, he emphasized karma, and on the other hand, he also emphasized giving up the fruits of activities. And by speaking of buddhi yoga, it appeared as if he's talking about giving up the karma altogether. Anyways, so now Krishna answers Arjuna's question. So that's 3 to 9. Karma yoga superior to karma sannyas. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dvida Nishtha Pura Prokta Mayanaga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I've already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Okay, now you see the verse. So what Krishna is saying, Jnana Yogena, so Lokesmin Vivda Nishta, Pura Prokta Mayanaga. So he says, I've already explained to you two kinds of Nishtha, or two kinds of faith, or two processes to achieve the Supreme. What are they? Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam. So he's saying, I explained to you two processes. One is Karma Yoga, and the other is Jnana Yoga. He said, I've explained to you these two processes, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Which, and of course, Prabhupada translates Karma Yoga as devotional service. Okay, so why he does that, we already explained. But then essentially, he's talking, but even Prabhupada, in the beginning, he says, in the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, the analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is a subject for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. Okay. So here Prabhupada writes that famous statement, which we refer to very often. Yes. But before that, he writes, the same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse, that this Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. So how are these interrelated, religion and philosophy? How are they interrelated, interdependent, theory and practical? Okay. So you can explain the statement, religion without philosophy is sentiment, and philosophy without religion is mental speculation. Take the mic.
Say for first part of the statement, religion without philosophy. Say a person is doing practice of devotional service, but he does not know why I am doing this. So it comes to the level ki, because I have sentiment. Like in India, we typically see in villages, people have sentiment for any type of worship of God.
Rituals.
Rituals. Like even like Indra Puja, when Rajavasis were doing Indra Puja, then Nanda Maharaj says, because our ancestors are doing it from past, we should do it. So it's like a sentiment and or sometimes fanatism, because it is artificially imposed. And second part of the statement, philosophy without religion. So if one is only practicing philosophy, sometimes the heart becomes hard-hearted, and it comes to the level
So
of,
this is what type of philosophy?
yeah,
Mental speculation. Mental speculation. So that type of jnana, yes, it definitely makes the heart hard-hearted. Philosophy without religion becomes mental speculation. So this is philosophy which is based on mental speculation. So if it is not based on the bona fide authorized scriptures, then it is basically mental speculation. And so therefore, so these two are extremes. One extreme is only religious rituals without understanding philosophy. The other extreme is only philosophy without religious practices. So what will be the problem? If there's only philosophy, in our scenario also, if we only have philosophy, we don't have any practical services, what will happen? Theoretical knowledge, yes. Theoretical knowledge, no realization. We discussed that in our first class also. Okay. And on the other hand, if there is only religious rituals, person is only performing various activities, but there's no philosophy, what will be the result of that? What will be the result of that? Blind following. Okay, what will be the result of that? Weak faith. The result of that?
Leave Krishna.
Yes, he cannot continue. He may not be able to continue, because after some, why should I do all this? That's what happens. Prabhupada says, just today I was hearing lecture actually. Prabhupada says, therefore, in temples, churches, mosques, Prabhupada is actually speaking on this 1.2.8. What's 1.2.8? Dharma smanushidapam sa vishwaksena kadasuya na utmadyed yadiratim shrama evai kevalam. So Prabhupada is speaking on this verse. And so he says, so if in our temples or even in churches, mosques, everywhere, if there's no hearing, of the philosophy, then after some time, people will think, why should I do all these things? And therefore he says, because people have not been educated in religion, therefore they have stopped going to temples and churches, and therefore the churches have become empty. And therefore we see, that's why Srila Prabhupada emphasized everyday class, morning, evening class, 2 classes in a day. Actually, you don't find in any other place. You don't find. Other even bona fide Vaishnava organizations, you don't find. You know, some festival may be there, somebody may speak something. But otherwise, on daily basis, you don't find. But that's the reason why Prabhupada emphasized. Daily 2 classes. Because if without hearing, then it's just empty rituals. After some time, why should I do it? And that's how people lose interest, because they don't understand. And so therefore, both are interdependent, interrelated. And so therefore, Krishna is saying, yes, I've spoken these 2. I've spoken about Karma Yoga, I've spoken about Jnana Yoga, but they are interdependent. What is that interdependence? We'll discuss tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.